Okay, we've experienced the vision of a production designer in the work of Sarah Greenwood. Now, let's go through the workflow process of production design and let's follow Beth Mickle and her production design of Drive, the movie, and what she did to create the concept and execute it. In Drive, she designed the sets here of the apartment house and its hallways so it could be built in the studio. And she basically took computer assisted uh, design software, computer activated design software that would give the blueprint models for her construction team to build. And then she dressed the set with her SAC deck team. In Drive, she just wanted to create, as she says, a sort of fantasy version of LA where two characters meet and fall in love. And that's the idea that she based everything around. A beautiful love story between two characters, not a story about a pawn shop robbery. So, where these people lived was very important for her. And we distinguished between where she lived and where he lived, the darkness and the light, the brown tones and the pink tones, and the blue tones. So, it was very important for her in telling the story. Um, as you can see in the auto shop here, the set deck was very important as far as comparing not only the color of the vehicle, but the environment that these people were working in. Uh, Here, from this aerial shot, we can see that they set it up so that these vehicles look vintage. This is not any common auto shop. This is a shop that's taking special either race cars or vintage cars. So it's a high-end shop just by the nature of the vehicles in it. And also look how clean the shop is too. So in the design here, it tells you somebody who's on the run has to get their car chopped and channeled, but it tells you that the sort of clients that this person attends to are wealthy in the sense of people having fast cash that they got to get rid of very quickly. In the movie, she had to design a sort of a strip club atmosphere, and so she said she had some challenges here, but she found it was really exciting because she said um, the production designer told her, and she was the art director, like I said, the production designer told her, do something with mirrors. He likes mirrors, and he liked red drapery, and told her to play with it, and so they didn't have any money to do it. So what they did, she said, she ended up finding a ton of mirrors, and she built them in movable frames, and then she drew it up as this big circular rim of mirrors so that they could hit each other and reflect back and forth. And they couldn't afford a ceiling, so they just had red drapery hanging all across the ceiling, and they found this great red carpet with swirling gold and jewel shapes on it, and used that as ground flooring. And finally, the set decorator, Lisa Sessions, found these beautiful dress lacquered tables, and it all came together in this image here that with the bulbs around the mirrors and the glittering mirrored set. And for Beth Mickle, she said this is her favorite set design for the whole movie, and it was primarily the set deck that really put it together, as you can see here. And she says, big thing with when you're choosing colors, you need to know what the lighting will be in the room. And so when you're working with the red and you figure out you got all these bulbs here, you can see how it's all going to finally appear for the camera, and then it will make it come to life. Here in our interior close shots, you can see that the cinematographer then sections off this wonderful set deck design that we've seen, and the character comes in his murderous equipment, and we get closer, but we don't expand into the whole picture, but it still does its work. This movie had a sense of love and claustrophobia. I love this hallway scene that she's got here. It's all symbolic in the sense of colors and doom that leads up to the final ending, but it's also quite beautiful and rich at the same time. Um, and also when they were developing not only the claustrophobic long hallways, they were developing the weird costumes too, with the scorpion logo on the smoking jacket that just adds to that kind of strange separate world that this character lives in. So when they found the place that they wanted to put the lead actor Christina Hendricks in. They found a location that had pink walls and brown carpeting. So what they did was they went in and put in pale blue wallpaper with little gold medallions on it, and they found that this contrasted nice with the pink floral patterns on the bed and everything, and it was a compliment. And the wallpaper complemented everything, and they aged it down to give it that slightly worn-in look. And then what they did after that, they added some mirrors into the room for the cinematographer to get some real interesting shots of Christina. So they take this entire room, they recreate it so they can give this rich interior yet very reflective atmosphere for the movie. And it's all the set deck putting together the concept of a room they found, but they had to fit to the character herself. And in the movie Drive, of course, we have to have car scenes, and so you contrast the overexposed light of the car with the underexposed claustrophobia of the set decoration, and you have the dynamic of the risk and privacy of the love story of Drive. And at the end, you show up to the BAFTA Awards here. This is Beth Mickle in the award ceremony, showing that as a decorator, as a designer, there is the glory that everybody else shares in every department. This is their particular ceremony and award acceptance. Here we have another set designer at work, and a man named Maher Ahmed, who's doing a movie here called Gangster Squad. And I think I put this in here because it's very New Mexican, and it's not in New Mexico, but it's very close in that desert look, and that suburban desert look here. And his whole concept here is, he says, using digital light or digital cameras, he's very sensitive to how much light he needs. He doesn't need very much. He doesn't need to overexpose it, so he uses a lot of practical light to give it the atmosphere he needs for the movie. And then he adds in the set deck here, so if someone's worrying about their paperwork and the IRS work, it's this profusion of paper against this semi-dark background that gives you this brooding sense of impending doom. And he then contrasts it with a nightclub version that's very different from our Scorsese, who's got the big reds and the corpuscle look. This is more of a dark wooden, very underlit look. But again, going with digital cameras, he finds that he can get more of that three-dimensional sense by not overlighting, but underlighting. Let the practicals doing all the lighting for it. And when he takes a street, he has to redesign the exterior of the buildings to get to the time period. And so what they do, they come in and they put on their new neon lights. The facing is then redecorated. This is what set deck does. It's put a Klieg light out here, and suddenly it becomes 40 years earlier. But they have to dress the exterior in a big way, so it's a big budget item. But it's very important for set deck to supply the frontispieces that get us back into the past. As I showed earlier, this was the set deck for Steve Arnold, who's the production designer for House of Cards. And I just want to look at his, just before I finish off with this piece here, what he does with his set deck. He says, and this is Kevin Spacey's house here, or his townhouse, and he says he put it in a long, skinny set where there are a lot of opportunities for differentiation between foreground, midground, and background to give that depth to the picture, that 3D look. So elements can be layered front to back as opposed to across the screen left to right, because this is a TV show. The visual device narrowed things but give it more depth on the set. And he's concerned because he's showing the underbelly of Washington, D.C., the shadowy, behind-the-scenes part of it. Generally you would have lighter characters against darker background. But he decided to do the opposite. So he has darker characters against a primarily lighted background, as we see in this scene. And so the characters are lit so you can see their faces, but there's also a lot of silhouetting that happens against these lighter backgrounds. And this adds a sense of drama and depth to the picture. And even the loft, where his wife has an affair in New York, is given that same lighting so that we have the dark foreground and the light background, and it's still not it's not anything that is cheery and lighthearted. This is again a brooding atmosphere that he has continued through the series. And these are some of his drawings that he sketches out before he develops these set pieces. And this is a drawing for the library that has a ceremonial award ceremony that Kevin speaks to in the movie. And this is how they built it, or this is how it looks as a location. Then you can see in digital post how they built the extension, the modern extension with the columns out front. They just added this later so that it became the new building. And then this is one of these aspects that these people are working more and more with, because as set designers and decorators, they'll design something, but they might not exactly know what's going to be done in post. So they have to work closely with post. But right now, this is this feeling that not everybody's understanding each other on either end, and so they'd like to know about post, and they don't want that separation where they finish doing their movie, because a production designer, production set decorator, that whole art department, when the movie wraps, they're done. When the movie's done shooting, they're done. The production designer's work is done. But if there's another 4 months where they're spent on post changing things like adding extensions on buildings and changing the colors and everything, then the feeling is that they've been almost robbed of the sense of completion. So it's the source of conflict now that we're trying to figure out in the digital age. And here is another drawing sketch by Steve Arnold showing the fundraising party that Spacey's wife holds in the TV series here. And here's the sketch, and then you can see in the sketch he's got all these globes of lights, and then in the final set decoration, that's the prominent thing, the floating globular light to give not only depth but the feeling of party atmosphere and exterior in Washington, D.C.